Welcome back to Horror Italiano, where we take you on a tour through horror Italian cinema. I am Joe the Psychologist, and as always, I am joined by my dear brother, Ricky Van. How you doing tonight, bro?
What up, my brother from another mother? I'm doing good. I got my beer, I got my Brugal, and we're gonna be talking some horror Italiano, man. We're going back. What up, son? Let's do it.
I'm ready for this one. And in this episode, we will be discussing the 1964 movie Blood and Black Lace, directed by Mario Bava, written by Marcello Fondato, Giuseppe Barilla, and Mario Bava, starring Cameron Mitchell as Massimo Marlacchi, Ava Bartok as Christina Cuomo, and Thomas Reiner as Inspector Silvestri. A masked, shadowy killer brutally murders the models of a scandalous fashion house in Rome. All right, so this one started off a little interesting because generally in some giallos, you get the murder in the beginning. You get some characters introduced. However, off the bat, you were going to be dealing with something a little different because you had this little shady interaction with what appears to be two married individuals who are also bumping up on coke and he needs his hit. So I knew that this was going to be totally different. A model, Isabella, who is running late. Christina is already done with her. She has shown up late before, the guy's like, oh, we'll just cost her a fee. So as Isabella is walking home, I do have to say, bro, where she got dropped off by the taxi, that was a long ass, I think that was a driveway. Yeah. Couldn't you just have asked the guy, listen, could you just go inside and drop me up?
A little closer if you don't mind.
That was a long ass walk she was doing. I'm a fucking guy and I wouldn't do that walk. I'd be like, no, you gotta drop me up by the front. It's a scary
I'll be that
walk.
Lazy motherfucker that would be like, if you don't mind, my friend.
Just take me. But then Isabella, she is murdered. This starts the first chain of murders involving the models in this fashion house. Did you start to wonder exactly why the models themselves were being targeted for the murders?
I didn't start wondering that at all. I just figured, okay, it's a Giallo film. I know that, and that's all I know about this movie. So it's gonna be a whodunit. I never really thought of what's the motive or, what's the agenda. I never think about that for these films. I let it play out, because if I stay thinking about that, I'm gonna be focused on that, and I'm gonna miss something in front of me. So I just let the movie play out. When I noticed there were fashion models being targeted, and only fashion models, I knew this was gonna be like a secluded incident that remains only within this fashion house itself. So whatever was happening, whoever the killer was, it was going to be tied to the fashion house. It's interesting because this movie, I would say a good handful of women were murdered in this film. No men, I don't think.
No men.
But the funny thing about it started off with Isabella, but she was killed for a totally semi-unrelated reason as compared to everyone else. So once Isabella was murdered, and then something happens with the diary that was discovered. That is what set off the chain of events as far as the murders are concerned. And that pushed the story along. How about you, man? Like, I know you were probably like from the very beginning, okay, who's the killer? Let me see. Everyone's a suspect.
Yeah, for me, again, it started out with these shady characters.
When you say shady, I mean, we're talking about some cokeheads right off the top. Let's just say it.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's just say it, bro. You're right. That was an interesting way to start the film. Some guy like behind a tree, like, yo, you got my fix.
Yes, in 1964. So, I mean, I'm sitting there like, wow, like, I didn't realize that cokeheads were around.
There was an interesting point in this film when I think it was Silvestri mentioned cocaine to one of the suspects, and as soon as he said cocaine, you got that sound cue, like it was this big like reveal.
It was a strange thing for it to be focused on cokeheads. Once the diary came into play, that's when I was like, all right, she wrote something in there about other models, other people that she worked with. That's when I'm like, so it's not somebody who's just going around just slashing the models. It's tied to this diary. Then the killer now tries to get the hands on the diary, but the first witness said that she was going to take it home. you know,
Nicole.
In there, it had that, you know, she had borrowed $1,000 for an abortion. Again, that's very, you know, 1964, pretty risque to put in a movie for those times. But it showed you the urgency that she had to get to this diary and take that section out, because that was going to be revealed. That would, back in 1964, it would have ruined her career.
I'm so glad you brought that up. As far as we got to bring that up as far as context. 1964, you mentioned how lax it was to be, not lax, but it was a big deal to have an abortion as part of a plot point. Not just that, but there was a line when I think it was the head countess who was like, all the men are in prison. Who's gonna help the women? Like, they framed the women as so helpless that without these 5 fucking dudes, like, they were just regular guys, but they were fucking, this wasn't Tom Hardy over here, you know what I'm saying?
No.
So women were put on a low pedestal and they were not afraid to come out with it back in that time. So yeah, good observation.
Now, once you realize that now this diary is all being tied in, there was something else that I kind of started noticing. I picked up that the physical attributes of the killers were different. When it was her as the killer, I was like, the movements were a little bit different.
I'm glad you brought that up. And what else?
Again, it's not so much
not just the movements, but what else?
The strength. The other one was much stronger.
Yeah,
whereas
not just that. The first murderer was brutal, right? And once the second murder took over, the murderer, it was all like suffocations essentially, and a drowning. No physicality. So yeah, good
the
observation.
way a woman would do a murder as opposed to the way a man would do a murder.
Yeah.
So once I figured out it was 2 killers, and it turned out to be Christina and Massimo, because also in the diary is the fact that Christina and Massimo worked together to murder her husband, and she was blackmailing him. So they paid her off some, and Isabella got greedy. So they needed to get rid of her. They needed to get rid of the freaking diary. It was in a series of misfortunate events for everybody involved, because they had to now paint like there was what did they say, a sexual sadistic killer, because he, you know, when she propped her up over the other one, you know, it's sexual.
Yeah, that was done by design by the killer to throw the police off.
Totally throw it off.
Mm-hmm.
So did you yourself pick up that there was 2 killers, or did you think it had been one until the reveal came that it was actually 2 of them?
No, to be honest with you, man, and to full discretion, I saw this twice, only because the first time I saw it, I was kind of distracted, you know, a lot of stuff was going on, so I didn't pick up on nuances like I normally do. So unfortunately, by the time I saw it the second time, I knew who the killer was. I knew there was 2, so I didn't get a chance to, like, you know, be like, ooh, I didn't catch that. But to be fair, I didn't. When I saw it the first time and they had the 5 dudes locked up for questioning, they weren't locked up. You know, they were about to get a warrant for all their arrests. They were all suspects. Yeah, now they got the ultimate alibi. They were all here. Upon first watch, I'm thinking, okay, so it ain't these guys. It was too obvious. I mean, I didn't have anybody in mind quite yet at that point. Once the second killer came about, and I only noticed this the second time, is I noticed the differences, not just the size, but the confidence and the aggressiveness of the earlier murders as opposed to the later murders were more like subdued. That, like I said, less physicality, more like, you know, blindsiding somebody by, you know, putting a pillow over their face or putting someone's head into a fucking running bathtub of water to drown them. I was like, okay, damn, it was right here, because I mean, obviously by that point you knew there was 2, but for the first, I think it was Peggy not Peggy. There were so many characters in this movie. Bro.
I know.
I lost track at one point.
And two of them looked alike, and it would get thrown off too.
Yeah, not just the way they killed people, but yeah, their mannerisms, the way they moved. It was definitely a stockier build for the first killer. So yeah, man, I didn't know that. I'm assuming. You're smiling, so did you guess it before it was revealed?
Yeah.
But did you know who it was?
So it threw me off, because I thought that since it introduced us to Peggy right in the beginning, that, all right, might be a little too in your face, but maybe she's working, because you already know she's married. She's seeing another married man, you know, so.
They're all married, right? They're all seeing different
everybody
people.
Was seeing it. Yeah, they were all cheating on each other.
Yeah.
So I had thought it was a woman, like, again, because of the way that the murders were done. When it was Christina, it was two equal physical people. Whereas when it was Massimo, it was a male, you know, obviously a little stronger.
Bro, Massimo fucked you up. He was punching these women like if they were fucking men, bro. Punch them, slapping them up, pop, 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 pop. Like,
another thing.
Holy
like,
shit,
a whole
bro.
lot of hitting on women in this movie for not season.
You would never see that.
Like, no, not anymore.
No, the way this dude was beating up these women like if they were fucking males. Holy shit, bro. The violence to me, because this wasn't a graphic movie at all, but that to me was the most graphic stuff in it, because you don't see that anymore in movies, at least not to this extent, because it wasn't just one punch. Like, he was treating these women like if they were fucking his male counterparts. It was insane.
It was all basically to cover up the fact that Chris and Massimo had murdered somebody.
That was Christina's husband they murdered, correct?
Yes, Christina and Massimo murdered her husband.
Her husband.
And that's how she took control of the house.
And then he wanted her
control
money.
of the money. And now he wanted her money. So now we're going to the classic cat and mouse, because Massimo all along wanted the money and then sets her up one last time. I love that she picked up on it. The last part, because now we truly find out the true motives here was Massimo trying to take control of everything. Did you like that? That was like the motive for everything that was being done in this movie, the reasons for the murders. I thought it was a good, you know, this is a cat and mouse. So
yeah, dude, I couldn't agree with you more. I love that aspect of it, because it's not a stupid motive. Yeah, it starts off because Isabella is holding him up for, she's blackmailing him essentially. Extortion. They take her out. Then they find his diary. Oh, wait a minute. All that shit and more is in that fucking diary. Now we got to get that. A cat and mouse of, I got to find his diary. But we don't know who it is. It just felt realistic to me. I think, in my opinion, people would kill less for that. You know what I mean? So to kill Isabella, that makes perfect sense, because that's how these rich people, when there's murders and they're not solved, most of them is about money or sexual relations with other people, drugs, all that stuff, and that's all included into this film. So it's grounded in reality in that sense. And I think when Christina kills the other two women, especially the first one, is to protect Max, to protect him. And then she kills the last girl because he told her, we got to do this one last job, which I found suspicious. How come you can't do it? Yes, he says they're shadowing me, but they've been shadowing this motherfucker the whole entire movie, bro. He got away with all that shit, yeah. But I think he started getting nervous because they started figuring out like there's someone who knew the victims, because when he was in the car, he knew where the alarm was, and all the victims were people from that fashion house themselves. So, I could buy that. So it's not a negative, but at the same time, she should have been like, wait a minute, but really, like, he's gonna send the most like amateur person and murdering people to do something so important. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think she was smart, which I liked. She picked up on it. She wasn't like, tell me that's not what you did. Tell me. No. She was like, ooh, I figured you out. I figured you out, motherfucker. I figured you out.
He shows up to scare her while she's committing the murder, you know, and she's like trying to get out, and he's banging on the door. I will say, telegraphed that she was going to fall off the balcony some way or another, right? And I thought that she was going to die, and then she pops in the end after he breaks into her jewelry box to get all her diamonds and her pearls and everything. Unfortunately to her, I think she did love him.
Oh yeah.
And she realized that this guy screwed me over.
She loved him. He did not love her.
He did not. When Christina said no, he slaps her and says, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And she does it. You know, I'm like, I would have gone, all right, listen, asshole. You know I got the money ready. Hit me one more time.
He called her an idiot too.
Yeah.
When I saw the first time, there was no subtitle option. I had to watch it in Italian. It had subtitles, but it was authentic. When I saw the second time, it was subtitled. It was dubbed in English. The funny part about it was there was one main actor that was hired to do the voices for like 90% of all the males. Jeez. So everybody sounded the fucking same. Paul Frees, Paul Frees was the name of the actor. That if you look it up, he did like almost every single voice in the English dubbed version on here for all the males. And honestly, it wasn't bad though, because it was one guy and he was decent. It felt authentic. I wasn't distracted by like an actor you recognize with a fake ass American accent or something. It wasn't any of that. It felt authentic. So when I watched it the second time, yeah, it was a lot cheesier because of course the English subtitles are always bad for these movies. But it's cool. I saw the best of both.
And it had to cut away like it was going to commercial too.
So if you haven't seen this film and you want to watch it in English, it's on YouTube. Check it out.
All right, bro. So let's wrap this one up.
1963, a year or two prior to this one, The Girl Who Knew Too Much, Mario Bava. That's the film that began the Giallo phenomenon. That's the film that really started the genre, and a lot of people would debate it. Is that film or Blood and Black Lace, but that one did come out prior to this film. Yeah, it's all there. The blueprint's there. I love it felt very pulp to me. I love the music in this movie. The intro, when the movie starts and it's got that pulp soundscape, and you got all the character portraits, got that panning shot, which by the way, this movie had a very low budget, so all the panning shots of this movie were done. They were done, the whole entire movie, all the panning shots were pretty much done on a child's wagon. That Bava was just, moving, left and right. Bava is a masterclass in cinematography, and it just looks gorgeous. And the colors pop in this movie is vibrant, and it's beautifully contrasted to the darkness and the shadows that are in this movie. Mwah. Cinematography at its best. This movie unfortunately had a very, very disappointing box office. Yeah. And this movie has, I know you researched this. I'm pretty sure you got the original titles. You always bring them up, Joe. You got
I did not. This one I did not get it, but I know it's something.
The German title translated from English is The Masked Strangler. And I just keep thinking the question from DC. Like, when you watch this, I mean, I know Argento was inspired not only because of the colors, but he did Deep Red, and in Deep Red, the killer had a fedora hat with the blank face and the coat, just like this character with the black leather gloves. One thing I will say about these movies, the killers are smart. The directors always put this in there, because in newer films, the killers don't wear gloves. They mutilate people, but they no gloves. These murderers fuck you up, but they're smart. These murderers are smart because they always got black gloves, they always cover their face, they always hide their tracks. So yeah, man, it's awesome. Horrendous shit for greed and lust and addiction and fame, and this movie highlights all of that. So that, to me, that's where the horror comes from. But yeah, man, I dug it. Cool film. How about you, man?
I liked it too. And it's Se Donne per Assassino is the Italian.
Yeah.
We actually have a movie in season 2, Dario Argento's The Bird and the Crystal Plumage, that is influenced by this. Martin Scorsese and Pedro Almodovar reference this movie in some of the stuff that they've done. That's what I like. These are the movies that pretty much were the blueprint for stuff that, we see released in the US and in other countries. But, giving you the thriller, the whodunit, the murders. This is probably one of the more tamer on the murders as far as, including like slasher type that we've done. But it was still well done. I picked up, like you did, on the colors. I got the red phone at the end. Funny that you said it didn't have a lot of budget, because for what they didn't have, he still did a lot of great shots. Like, I loved when, after Chris fell, you get the slow panoramic view of the fountain, and you're just waiting to see her.
Yes!
You're waiting to see her. Here's what, and this is the other part. So, I knew she wasn't dead, because you're waiting, and the scene gets bigger and bigger, and you're like, what the hell was the point of all that? It made you think she was dead. So yeah, when she popped up that she was actually still alive, I did on that one, only because we didn't get the shot of her. As she said, like, I guess the trellis broke her. If she had landed and been impaled on something, which is what I was waiting to see, was that, you were going to see her impaled on a fence or broken over a statue.
Yeah, I was waiting for it to be over the actual statue that had the fountain, water coming out.
Yeah.
I thought she would be all like, laid out.
And it was great that he did that to you, because he goes, I know what you're waiting on. Yep. And you're waiting for her to show up.
You ain't getting it.
Nope, she's not going to show up.
Good show, yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's another great one. kept my phone down. You know, that's a big A plus. I love whodunits. I love trying to figure out. As I said, I figured out it was a woman. I didn't get Chris. So still being surprised in a movie and not figuring it out, that's always a bonus.
When you saw Max's little pad with the little...
Yep. I knew, like right there, you knew it was him. Yeah. So that's even more where I'm like, I knew somebody's working with him.
Yeah.
So I didn't know Massimo yet either, though, by the way. I just knew that there was two killers at this point.
It's funny because in that scene, someone looked at the other guy next to him. And he's like, "You're the killer. Look at his face. He hates women." Because he's some like gawky looking guy compared to everyone else. You know what I'm saying?
Designer. They were trying to pinpoint the poor designer, who I think was probably gay anyway. So.
By the way, that's not the Italian. Maybe the American subtitles just added that in. And maybe that's not what he really said, but the way he said it, look at his face. He hates women. I was dying when I saw this.
This is the whole reason that after discussing this, we decided to do the show. It's literally, we want to show you movies that have influenced all the stuff that you're seeing now. Stuff that you saw back in the 90s, the 80s, and the 70s. Italian horror has its blueprint all over everything we've seen. So make sure to check these movies out. You heard Ricky. It's available on YouTube or Prime or AMC Plus. And just make sure to check out these movies and support Italian horror cinema.